So the Noah story is one of those stories that we have known for as long as we've been in church. Some of us have been in church our whole lives. It's one of the very first things that we learn about because it's the animals and it's the cutesy and it's, oh, pairs and 2 by 2 and the whole thing and the flood. And that part, there was always this like children's book I used to read with the Noah story in it. And there's always this picture that haunted me. Like maybe this isn't a very good children's story of these people drowning, banging on the door of the boat. But it seems like when we were taught as kids, we weren't really, like they didn't dwell on that part a lot. They talked about these people who didn't get on the boat, but it was really about the animals. But as you look at the story and you watch God promise Noah at the end of it that he'll never do this again, and he talks about the rainbow in the sky being the sign of him never doing it again. The next recorded story for us about the life of Noah is him planting a vineyard, making some wine, and getting drunk. We don't tell that part in Sunday school usually, because I think it's a little too much like us today. There are so many instances we could point back to where we went through tragedy, we went through loss. Noah just lost the entire rest of the world besides his immediate family. And I'm thinking he might have been feeling the impact of that. And so we have examples even today for us where we feel loss, we feel pain, we feel this tragic move in our life, and we get in our car and we go buy some liquor and we get drunk. And I think there's this pattern for us of not wanting to feel the pain, not wanting to feel the tragedy, not wanting to let it do the very work that it was probably intended for in the first place. My wife and I and our family went through a couple of really tragic years in a row between like 2003 and 2006. It started off in January of 2003 with my grandpa dying. And it was one of those things where I didn't know him real well, but I remember grieving the fact that I didn't really have a grandpa growing up. I remember grieving the fact of what could have been and now there's no hope of. The next month, my wife had her first miscarriage, and it was one of those moments where I'm standing in a hospital room and the doctor is trying to talk to me, and I'm looking past her to try to see my wife because people are running and yelling and talking about loss of blood. And I thought, get your eyes full, Mike, because this might be the last time you see your wife. And I remember feeling like, where is God in those moments? Like, what is going on that was supposed to help us bypass all of this? A few months later, in May of the same year, my wife's little brother, Tyler, finally gave in to leukemia and died. And it was one of those things for us. We had heard so many people tell us that he was going to be healed. They'd seen visions from God. He was surely God is for us and he's going to heal and we're not supposed to be sick. And God even gave me a word of going to the hospital, and I sang worship songs over him for an entire night long. And the nurses thought I was crazy when they'd come check on him. But I knew God put it in my heart to do it. And my faith was so high that I thought to myself, God is going to not only heal Tyler, but clear this entire hospital wing. And Tyler died. And the questions, they all come up again. And it just leads to another thing. So then we get to January of 2004, and my wife and I are pregnant again, and she has yet another miscarriage. August of the same year, my wife's grandpa died. And then September of the next year, I had the first kid in a couple of months. In my youth group, I was a youth pastor at the time, and she got hit by a semi and was killed. A few months later, a kid in my youth group died of cancer. And I find myself walking through these several years of pain, and it seems like it never stops. And yet I'm finding myself right in the midst of what I was born to do. I was supposed to walk these two families who just lost their teenage kids through this process. I was supposed to sit in a funeral home with them and help them pick out caskets. I needed to know what that felt like. as a pastor, as a Christian, as a friend, I needed to understand something about pain. And so God allowed me and my family to go through pain because he's gracious to me. I related a lot to Job during that time, and in Job, if you've read it, he's very embittered, he's angry, he's upset, rightfully so. His family and everything is taken from him. And God gets very sarcastic with him, actually, and starts asking Job where he was when he made the stars and when he made the deer. And I don't remember seeing your face when I was forming things out of nothing. And basically tells Job, I'm God, I'll do whatever I want. And for me, at this point, I'm a pastor. I should be able to handle this stuff. I should be okay with it. And in reality, I remember like just shaking my fist at the sky. Quite literally, remember going outside behind our church building, and I had to lead worship and then preach a sermon. And I remember telling God out loud, I'm about to tell a room full of people that they should trust you and they should love you, but I don't even like you right now. But the pain is good. The pain is exactly what it's supposed to be. Like our bodies experience pain because it's trying to tell us something. It's a warning signal. And if you know anything about leprosy, there's this misconception that leprosy makes body parts like fall off or die. In actuality, leprosy is a nerve damage disease, which means that when you get leprosy, your nerve endings die. And so you'll slam your finger in a door, you'll stub your toe, you'll get a cut, and you won't even know it because your nerve endings are dead. And what happens is there's so much infection and the body starts to protect itself and resorbs on itself. So basically your fingers, they disappear. Your body parts start to like cave in on themselves because the body is trying to survive against this thing that's supposed to be painful, but you're numb to it. And I think emotional pain is the same way. I think we're supposed to feel it. I think we're supposed to learn something from it. I think it's why God allows it. We're supposed to feel this thing that says something is not right here. I have to address it. But so often we're like Noah and we just want to numb it. I heard a guy give an example one time of basically he had this full cup of water and he said the cup of water's fine and you can hold it really tight, and if everything's still, we're good. But as soon as something bumps the water, things start spilling out. What was in our hearts, what we tried to hold on to tightly and tried to cover up because we know how to cover up, it comes spilling out. In Luke chapter 6, it says, no good tree bears bad fruit, nor does a bad tree bear good fruit. Each tree is recognized by its own fruit. People do not pick figs from thorn bushes or grapes from briars. A good man brings good things out of the good stored up in his heart, and an evil man brings all evil things out of the evil stored up in his heart. For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. You've heard it said, probably another way, out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. And that's true for us, especially when pain is there. But that's a good thing. As painful as it is, and sometimes we hurt people, and sometimes we get hurt in the process, but the pain shows us what's actually in our heart, that beforehand we were strong enough to cover up. And so these situations for me, and I talk about these 3 years, they didn't eventually cause doubt in my life. They're the very things that my faith has been built on. So after tragedy, after going through what you could call hell on earth, the thing that allows us to get back on our feet, the thing that allows us to kind of get out there and try again in the midst of the pain, in the midst of the tragedy, is that you end up realizing that being on our feet before was just an act of grace on God's part. Like maybe we were never strong enough to be on our own feet. Maybe it's always been God, but it was the pain that made us recognize it. And once you realize it's all grace, it becomes a lot easier to deal with the next one. And there will be a next one, because God isn't done with us.